Okay, what we have here is the Victory by Gottlieb, System 80B. It's got some issues. The machine turned on and half-assedly played. It really had some issues. It was giving erratic errors and all that stuff. A lot of times that is caused by that piece right there, that little board right there. It is usually comes unsoldered from the board and gives you a lot of issues, but that's not the case on this. That's pretty good. So I pulled the driver board out and I was checking the transistors on that. So I did the 3055s, checked all them out with the multimeter. They tested fine. All the U45s, the small little transistors here, went through. Driver board's good, so good to go. Step one is completed on that, so that'll be ready to go back in. This wire harness right here, this piece, I'm going to have to put an extra, as you see right there, that should be a ground pins that are in there, and they're missing. So I'm going to have to put a new set of ground pins in there to modify that. Also, I'm going to do the ground upgrades in the top of the cabinet, and underneath the playfield there's going to have to be ground modifications done there. The reset board is missing a chip and a wire harness that goes on there. For home use, not really necessary, so I'm not going to worry about that. I threw a coin battery in there and took the data sentry battery out. The problem is I'm going to have to do it all over again anyways. I just kind of threw it in there real quick just to get that data sentry battery out of there. And I put that coin op battery, watch battery in there into 2032. And I don't know. It's still not working because, I don't know if you can see this. I went out of, but if you look real close in here, there's acid damage on the resistors that are all there. Hopefully it didn't bleed down into this MPU chip where the switch is. The board itself looks pretty clean as a whole, so I'm gonna have to take that off and basically replace just about everything in that area. All those chips there I'm going to have to pull out and replace and put back together. So got my work cut out for there. I didn't measure any of the voltages on the power supply. That's going to be done too. So that's just a quick summary of some of the work that has to be done on my Victory machine to get an idea of what I do to get a machine up and running. Okay, bye. Okay, here's a little bit about the driver board for the Gottlieb System 80B. If you look close enough on this one, you can see that there is definitely burn damage on this board. You can see on this side there's pretty good burn marks there. Burn with a trace. No, I put my meter on continuity. If you do that, touch them together, you get a buzz. So I'm going to test the continuity on that part that was burned, and it buzzes. So that is a good repair. It's still good. Then I'm going to switch it over to diode, and I'm going to test out the transistors. So we're going to start with these 3055s. I'm going to try those. You should get a reading between 4 and 6. So I put it on the base, and then to one of these bolts here, I get a 5, a 5, and a 5. Okay, so now we'll go over to the next step, an emitter. again, a 5, a 5, and a 5. So those are all good. Now we'll go to the next set of transistors and do the same thing. Test them out. They should be in the same range. Kind of hard to see what I'm doing here, but there you go. 5 to 7. Anywhere between 5 to 7 is good. That's good. That's good. And the one that was really burnt over here looks like that's good. So that was a good repair. Whoever did that replaced that transistor, and it's a good repair. Same with all your larger transistors. Now I got the smaller U45s and the smaller transistors here. Basically you can go through and test those out the same way. You put the meter on it, red in the center, and if you get a 7 on one, and I think it's a 1.3, 129 on the other, that's good. Okay, so that would be for the smaller transistor. And then you have your U45s, same way. Let's see if I can do it this way. Do it that way. Red in the center. Then go this way, over that way. You can see. And a 7. So that one's kind of on the edge, but it's still good. There's a 6, 9. It's not a fluke meter, so it's nothing expensive, not a real good one. So you go through and you test out each one of these transistors in that fashion, and that's how you test your driver board for a system 80B. And you can check your resistors, make sure they're all okay, and just basically give an examination over the board for all your traces, make sure that's good. Take and clean this up a little bit on your edge connectors, but this does look like a nice system 80B driver board. So that's step 1 on the driver board that I didn't say anything about before when I first started this. Okay, so I got a couple extra tools sitting here. I removed the power supply, which is this piece right here. I'm going to have to put a ground wire on this. It's a modification that, like I said, I had to do ground mods for Gottlieb System 80 machines. And you need to put on this, you can see a little negative mark, a wire on there, and put that, attach that to the ground strap on the back board, on the back head of the pinball machine. Reason being is that it has faulty grounds. Also check the connections on these pin headers. Make sure that they're well soldered, that you don't see any round circles around them, which would indicate broken pins. This has all been resoldered already. Somebody else has done that. Looks pretty good. So I have my wire, pretty extensively long wire, because the ground strap just comes up to the bottom of the machine, so I need a long one. So I'm going to take my handy dandy tool, strip a tiny little piece off, and solder that to the ground, just like that, and that's in there. So now that ground is ready to be attached to the ground strap on the back head. I'll just take and strip this end here, leave a little off, and that gets attached to the yellow ground strap in the back of the box when I put the power supply back in. Once I have it installed, I'll show you how I run the wire. But pretty much that's it. Remember I said to clean the connectors. This is a fiberglass sanding pen, as you can read. Just take this and you go down and you give a little wipe on each one of these edges, and you can see it'll clean up all the crap that oxidized on there. You can see it's getting nice and shiny. You don't want to go too much on it, just enough to clean it up. And it gets all the oxidation off of the connectors, and this way when you put the board back in and you go to connect it, you can be guaranteed that you're going to get a nice clean connection on the board. Just go through, clean all this. You can see that somebody resoldered a couple pins on here too. Go through, clean them all off, make them look pretty good. Get all that oxidization off of there. That alone could keep that machine from booting up, or it wouldn't stop booting up because of this board, but it would give you problems with your lights, your pop bumpers, stuff like that would have issues. This is a handy dandy little tool you can get from, I got it from Marco's. Gottlieb's don't use screws, they use pins, plastic little pins to hold the boards on, and what you do is you put this over the top and it squeezes in the pin so you can pull it off, and that goes on each one of the hole connectors, and then you can pop the board right off of the backboard. This one screws in, as you can see, that screws into the head, but all your other boards, they don't screw in, so you tool like that's a little handy tool. What's it cost? $1 to get it from Marco's. It's worth it. Saves us a little bit of time, a little bit of aggravation. You're sitting there trying to do it with a pair of needle nose, or get your fingers in there to try and squeeze them, and nothing really works really well. So that helps you out. Okay, that's the next thing on the mods. Another common problem, grounds. They like to knock the ground pin off on a lot of these machines, and that's not a good idea. So I'm going to replace it with a plug. Not the best. You should probably replace the whole cord, but that'll work too. Just got to remember, pull it by the plug, never pull it by the cord. Otherwise you're going to pull all the connections out of that thing. So I'm going to replace that plug with this plug. That could be part of the problem with ground modifications too. Okay, don't know if that was recorded or not, but there's the new plug soldered in. I don't just screw it, I solder it in so I can make sure that it's not going to fall apart and cause shorts and trouble down the line. So that's that one. Okay, that's the power supply back up in the back headboard. I wired the ground modification in. That is on the bottom right here. You can see that coming off. Comes down. It's going to go behind that fluorescent lamp. Down the fluorescent lamp. Then it's going to come down all the way to, there's the yellow strap, and you can see there's a blue crimp on. I used the crimp on, but I also soldered it on there because I don't like just using crimp-ons, and that goes to the yellow ground strap wire. So that is the ground, number one for the ground mod on the power supply on the backboard. Okay, now I just plugged it in. As you can see, general illumination lights are on, the GI lights that are on, the fluorescent lamp is on, but I don't have anything plugged into the power supply, which means soundboard isn't running, MPU is not running, the driver board I didn't install, none of the connectors are connected. So the machine won't run. There's nothing that's going to run on it. That's why I laugh when somebody says, oh, well, the lights come on, the thing's working. No, you don't have to have a board in the back for the thing to work. There's a transformer that's in the bottom, and that powers your lights. And you could have no board. So if you don't see any boards in the back and you go to a machine and, hey, look, I got a machine for sale. No, you can't look at boards. Well, could be in for a world of hurt if you buy a machine and you don't even get to see the boards. I don't care what price you're paying for it. All right, onward. Okay, this is underneath the playfield. I got to go through all this too. Should have checked all these fuses here, everything down there. Made sure probably before I turned it all on, and did that one ground mod. The ground straps, I did check them before I did that. That's the yellow wire that you can see running right along here, coming up, plugged right in there. So it's all grounded out, grounded all the way around, right up here to the buttons, to the coin door. You can see the yellow wire on the cab. And these are another part of the ground mods that I'm going to have to take care of. They're notorious. They have separate return lines, ground return lines, and for some reason they did each one separately, and they like to short out. They don't get good connections. So I'm going to do that as part of the modification. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take each one of these connectors off. Up there, that one, you can see on one of them, you got like burnt marks on it. So that's already telling me that that's a bad ground there. It's having trouble grounding. So I'm going to take them off. I'm going to probably clump them all up into one connector, or a couple different connectors, and then connect them back onto there. And this way it'll take the path of least resistance and ground out. That way if one goes out, it's not going to cause a problem. It'll just go right to the next one and continue with its ground. Okay, onward. Okay, these were the pins that were on the transformer on the bottom where the connectors were for the grounds. You can see that it's pretty messy on the back, but somebody melted more solder to it and tried to bulletproof it and get them so the grounds, I just don't like them at all, so I'm going to get rid of it, and they're garbage. I'm not even going to connect them. I'm just going to connect it right to the frame itself with one big ground wires. Okay, and that's the upgraded ground mod connections. Took some twist caps, red twist caps, took all the ends that were connected into there on this plate, fuse plate, twist capped them on, and then put another 14 gauge wire to the ground, put a connector on it, and attached it to the ground plate and to the sides. And that takes care of all those lousy connections. Shouldn't have a problem with the grounds at that point anymore. Those are all the cruddy connectors that I cut off. Garbage. Okay, at this point I went through and checked every one of the fuses that are under here. Made sure that they were proper and they all worked. I had one value that was off and a fuse was broken. I don't know if it broke when I pulled it out or if it was broken, but it had to be replaced. So that was the 6 1/4 amp. Replaced that one, and there's fuses up there on the bottom of the playfield. Those all checked out okay, and the values checked out okay. I did a quick once over on the bottom of the playfield. Checked everything over. It looks like everything's in pretty nice shape. I didn't see anything screaming at me right off the bat. I know there was a flipper problem with this flipper. But that could have been part of the driver or the board. It shouldn't have been the driver because the driver's working, but maybe one of these driver boards down here. I don't see a pop bumper board. I think these are lamp display drivers. And that's the up kicker. Yeah, so it must be controlled by the MPU. So I don't even see for these flippers either. I don't see flipper control boards. So it must be controlled on the driver board. Okay, at this point I'm done for now. Testing the power supply voltages, should be the 5 volt, and I'm getting just over 5, which is fine. And that's from that power supply right there. There's the little pod up there. You can adjust the 5 volts. It was a little low. I turned it up to where it is the 5.8, and that's should be good to give me a nice boot power. Okay, I'm back here with my Victory pinball machine and just kind of finishing up. I didn't go with fixing the original board. I put a Schwimmer board in. Just easier. I had one. Might as well put the Schwimmer in. No, it's working 100%. The other one had acid damage to it. Really bad. So instead of doing all the work in that area on it that I showed earlier on the film, said how would it put this board in, and it's a nice board, so we'll do that. So we got the ground mod connected into the driver board, which comes down. You can see that black wire coming down, and it connects into the ground strap on the back head, along with the one that goes up to the top behind the light up into the power. Okay, and that does it for the ground straps up in the back box. The Schwimmer board. These are auxiliary driver boards. They all tested out. I checked them all out. That's your display. Works perfect. Not a problem. And speaker goes inside. What that is, I think everybody knows that. Alright, let's get this in there without breaking it. Okay, so that's that. And that's the back glass back in on the playfield. These targets here, there was this one right here was busted completely, so I pulled that out and replaced it with a brand new one. Got that from Pinball Resource, whole new bracket and everything, put it in there. I think it was like $6, $7 to put that, to purchase one of those. This was the flipper that was not working on it, and I repaired that. So we'll pull this out and we'll lift it up, and it'll show you the problem that was with that flipper. And if I pull this up and you look right in, that is the flipper right there. It was, I don't know if you can see this very well, the end of stroke switch would be that stack of switches right there next to the coil. I pulled that out, replaced it, put a new stack in. Again, I got that from Pinball Resource. Soldered that in there, repaired it, and she's up and working. Those are the ground mods in the base of the cabinet again, and you can see that. So lower this down now. Put that down. Lower that. Put that in there. Put the balls in. And you can see we've got displays. Got a nice fluorescent light, nice and bright. Soundboard is flashing. Display is working good. The track mode lights flashing the way they should be. Close the door. On the front.
Checkpoint 1.
One-handed play.
Good shot.
Checkpoint 2. Checkpoint 2. Checkpoint 2.
And you can see the flipper up on top is now working. The other flipper's working just the way it's supposed to. Displays working the way it's supposed to. And I have a working Victory machine. 100% repaired. Everything looking good. Gotta love that Schwimmer board. And look at all them LEDs. Just nice bright blue LEDs telling you everything. Okay. Put the back glass in and play a game. Should be good to go. Alright. Right down there, black buttons. And you can put your high score in.
put it on 4-player. It's cute.